appointment to go to where he is not able to join us. But nonetheless, I'm holding her down in Dickinson. Grant's holding it down in the cities here. He is, I think, maybe a little bit of a Gopher fan. He went to the Gopher Purdue game, got to see Coy Parrish pick six. He's going to the Nebraska Minnesota game this weekend on Friday night. It is Wednesday today. We are back to our regular scheduled programming here. It has been a hectic week a little bit. It was I was in Chicago over the weekend, tried to watch as much football as I could. Also, that wasn't even the most exciting part of the weekend, which, Grant, I don't even think you've heard the full story of my airline travel here, but it was my sister. She ran the Chicago Marathon on Sunday and ran a good time. It was ran it in 3.5 hours, way faster than both of us could do it. And 50,000 people, I think, run it every year. It's cool. It was a short trip to Chicago. We had a game on Friday. We won, rushed for 300 yards.
Nice.
And flew out of Bismarck on Saturday morning at 7:30. Get to Chicago, no hiccups, no real issues getting there. But I don't know, Grant, if you've ever been to the O'Hare Airport. Oh, my word. I feel like I am pretty good at navigating through airports and figure out where I'm going. I walked out of the terminal on that one, and it has hardly any signs. Trying to navigate where to go, I'm like, what do we do? Where do we go? And luckily, there were some people that was helpful, but you got to go through like 2 terminals to go take the train, because the last time when we went to Chicago, we flew into Midway, which was real easy to get in and out of.
Mm-hmm.
But finally get to our hotel, get in, everything, blah, blah, blah. Sister, she gets in a little bit after us, and we make it there, or they get there too. And then it was kind of just, she had to go pick up her packet at wherever it was. My dad and I kind of hung out. We watched college football, watched the Mizzou-Alabama game, which, my goodness, Ty Simpson is
he's that guy.
He is a guy. He is that guy.
He is that guy. There's a reason Julian Sayin left.
Yes. And like some of them throws, that 4th and 8 throw that he made, I think I tweeted it out on our social media. I was like, that's an NFL throw. That was a seed.
Big balls right there.
Big balls.
But
not
Dylan,
the
to go on to the O'Hare Airport. When we went on vacation in July, we had our layover there, and we landed in, let's say, gate A8, and we had to go to C16, which is a totally different terminal. We were in Terminal 1, and we had to go to like Terminal 3. We didn't have a train. We had to walk underground, and it was like a 10-minute walk to get there. Had to go up 2 flights of escalators. We get there. We have to go all the way down the hallway. We're at the Island of Misfit Toys airport because we're flying into Maine. And all these other airports were Indianapolis, Columbus, Maine. Just, like I said, middle of nowhere. But luckily, we didn't have to like actually exit and go to ground terminal or go to baggage claim. So I can see where you're coming from, where that is an absolute disaster and a shit show. And there was just people everywhere. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if there's 10,000 people in that airport.
There's a lot of people.
A lot of people.
And so we get there, whatever, kind of go to supper, hang out, watch Michigan get their ass kicked. Had a conversation with a guy that I'm getting this close, Grant. I am getting this close that if another stranger tells me that NDSU needs to move up to the FBS, like it's just, oh, hey, we're going to the FBS, I might punch him in the face. Not actually punch him in the face, but like,
yeah,
imaginary punch them in the face, because they
are you doing the Arthur?
Yes, that is very accurate.
All right, baby.
But it was we were sitting at the bar. We were kind of waiting for my sister to get back from and we were just kind of sitting at the bar. We were watching what game was on. Well, it was the afternoon slate, so it was.
Was it Oregon?
It was Indiana, Oregon,
Texas,
Oklahoma, and then I had the NDSU Southern Illinois game on my phone, which also the new ESPN app is dog water.
Well, ESPN has always had the worst fantasy football app since the beginning of time. The ESPN app is trash. So it shouldn't surprise us that the new quote upgraded one that is good is an absolute piece of shit.
Trying to watch the NDSU game, it wouldn't load. It would get me there, and then it would just be blank. It would just show the two logos of the teams. Luckily, I had the WDAY app, and I was able to watch the game on that. But like this guy was asking, what are some good games on tonight, or what games are good going on right now? And I was like, well, just kind of threw it out there because my dad had an NDSU shirt on, and I was like, NDSU Southern Illinois. Man, when they go move up? I'm like, when they get an invite. They got to quit sandbag. I was like, believe me, dude, I know we can't just jump up. Like, we got to be invited. They keep choosing Northern Illinois. They keep choosing these horrible teams that have no shot of competing, that are basically just going to be the taco bye week in league terms. Since I was in Chicago, I figure I'll throw that in there. But like it's just, oh yeah, we're just gonna. In a perfect world, yes, I would love nothing more than that. Frankly, as far as I'm concerned, and maybe I'm a little getting out ahead of my skis here. I'm not a good skier, so probably am. But the way the Pac-12 is set up right now, NDSU would walk into the Pac-12 and go win that bitch right now.
Because what is the new look Pac-12 next year? Like when it is officially a thing again. Of course, we got Washington State and Oregon State. Is it Boise, Colorado State, like San Diego State? Did they essentially just gut the Mountain West?
So this is the Pac-12 for 2026.
Mm-hmm.
Boise State, Colorado State, Fresno State, Gonzaga in basketball, Oregon State, San Diego State, Texas State, and Washington State. And in 2027, Grant, Dallas Baptist Baseball will be joining them as an affiliate.
Okay. So they just took the top half of the Mountain West and moved it to the Pac-12. And they essentially just killed NDSU's chance of getting moved up, because why would the Mountain West invite them when they would be the premier team?
Correct.
And why would they want to go play Utah State? Well, what would be the difference between playing Utah State and Southern Illinois?
Well, that's the other part is, too. It's like, I mean, Missouri State, who hasn't beaten NDSU since 2010 in that 3-0 game that a lot of people thought crushed NDSU's chances to make the playoff that year. They are 3-3 in the FBS right now.
How did they get an invite, and when did they get an invite? When did I miss this, Dylan? Was that a couple years ago? Are they in the Sun Belt? What conference are they in?
Missouri State, they are in Conference USA.
Okay.
And I think they get it because of where they're located. That's been NDSU's biggest factor. And in Missouri, they got St. Louis, Kansas City. You know, those are two big media markets. But
yeah.
Also, Grant,
do you just think just the sheer fact that they're somewhat closer, like when they want to play Jacksonville State, when they want to play, I don't even know who's in Conference USA, UTEP.
That's the part too that I can't rebuttal is like I can't remember off the top of my head because I mean you look at these conferences now, there is there's no regionality in college sports is dead. This is essentially a professional model, and I'm getting old and I'm like I want to go back to the old ways.
Even the professional models, they have it where you play at the NFL level. Let's say, Dylan, 6 of your 17 games each year are within a 2-hour flight at most. I mean, the one you could argue is the AFC West, and thanks to Kansas City, where that's a little more spread out. But besides that, they're all pretty damn close. And sure, the AFC East, you're up and down the coast, but you're still at least in the Eastern time zone.
Yeah, but Grant, this is. Oh, go ahead. I'll let you finish.
I was just saying the NFL does such a better job of creating its divisions than colleges do. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, but so the Mountain West, the teams that are staying in the Mountain West, and then I'll finish with the two teams that were selected over NDSU.
Mm-hmm.
It is Air Force, Hawaii, Nevada, New Mexico, San Jose State, UNLV, Wyoming. The two teams that are joining the Mountain West next year, the two teams that they chose over NDSU, Northern Illinois, who I believe is 2-4 on the year.
Weren't they in the MAC?
They were in the MAC, yes.
Okay, so Northern Illinois.
Yep. And the other team is a team that is perennially in our Beth Mowins Game of the Week candidate of games. UTEP. 1-5 right now, and a -9 turnover margin.
So did the Mountain West just not want to hurt other teams in its conference feelings by bringing in a team that would win this thing by 3 games every single year?
Yeah.
It's starting to feel that way, where it's just these FBS teams are just pure petty and pure spite. Like, I don't know how South Dakota State's doing, but they've had recent success with winning some national championships.
Oh, number 2 team in the country right now.
Wouldn't, if I was the Mountain West, or even the new look Pac-12, wouldn't I want to bring in South Dakota State and North Dakota State if regionality is no longer a thing in college sports? Wouldn't I want to invite those guys and bring them up?
And don't forget about the two Montana schools. I mean,
absolutely.
Program wise, they've got a richer tradition than pretty much any of those.
Yeah.
And also, the Mountain West is also adding in non-football sports Grand Canyon University, which I'll give that one to them because that's a for-profit university. They've got endless funds. And UC Davis.
Congratulations, another college in California that nobody gives a shit about.
Not having a bad year in FCS, though, I will say.
Okay.
But nonetheless, runs the marathon. It is a race back to the hotel to get to the airport. We get there. We still get there in time. We get there. My mom worries that if we don't get there at least 3 hours before, we only got there like 2 hours before, give or take. And then our flight was delayed out of Chicago. So our flight gets delayed, so it gets pushed back about a half hour. So we knew we were going to be pushing it close to make our flight to make our next flight from Minneapolis to Bismarck. And they actually call my mom and say, "Hey, we understand you're going to be pressed for time. Don't worry. We're going to have a cart waiting for you that'll pick you guys up. You guys will be able to get out right away, and you can get on the cart. We'll take you to your next gate, and then we'll make sure the door is held for you." So, oh, cool, great, and plane lands, we get to the gate, we get up. Had to be one of them people that stood as soon as the plane lands because we had to get to our next flight. We get out, we get on this cart, and the guy that was driving was not a great driver. I wanted him to let me drive, because if I was driving, we would have gotten there. I would have been weaving in and out of people, just going. I would have felt like I was I can't even think of the guy who Bradley Cooper's character on The Hangover, where he's driving the cop car and he's just driving on the sidewalk.
Not Doug. What is
Phil?
Phil.
Duh.
Yes, it's Phil.
I'm an idiot. But so they said they're gonna hold the gate for us. They have a cart, and we get to it, or he takes us as far as they can. So I get up and I start sprinting over to the gate, and I look, and there's another guy waiting, and he's like, it's closed. And I'm like, they told us they were gonna hold it for us.
Mm-hmm.
And so they start coming out, and I'm like, oh, sorry, we can't. I was like, and the guy that was sitting next to us he was also on the same flight from Chicago to Minneapolis, was with us. And he's like, I just got the notification my bag made it onto the plane. And they're like, they're like, well, sorry, it's closed. I'm like, well, you guys told us you would hold it for us. Why? Like, call them. Like, do something. Like, you said you were going to hold it. And we got there before the 6:10. Before 6, we got there at like 6:08. And they're like, they actually did call, and they tried to get them, and they're like, but you guys haven't backed away yet. You're still right there. Like,
you're right there.
Yeah, just let us go on. And they're like, nope, sorry, there's nothing we can do. But you told us there was a way. So I still need to call, and I feel like I should get some type of compensation, because we didn't get to fly out till 9:50. I didn't get home till 12:30. And I had to go to work the next day at 6 o'clock. It was a quick turnaround.
Yeah, that's early. That's tough.
But I feel like we should get some type of like a voucher, like a $200 off a flight, something here.
Well, yeah, they should take care of you, because the fact that, like you said, Dylan, the fact that they said they'd hold it for you and they didn't. Like, if you just knew that, hey, it was going to be close when you landed at MSP, you were able the first one to get off the plane. So if you're in row 20, you can cut everyone else and get in line to get to the next gate. And if you still miss it, you miss it. It sucks. That's the way life goes. But they told you.
Yeah.
They told you that they were going to hold it, and they still didn't. That would suck. Now, question for you. What airline was this? Was it Delta, United, American?
This was Delta.
Okay. Gotcha. Because my flight disaster in August was United.
Oh, yeah. That don't recommend it. It wasn't fun. But we got home. Got to fly first class on the way from Minneapolis to Bismarck, so that was kind of nice. It was nice to have that extra leg room.
How was the extra leg room and being able to get off right away? And did you get a meal, or did they just get you whatever drink you want for free?
It was whatever drink is. I turned it down because it was like I don't need anything to drink right now. I had my water.
Yeah.
I ain't gonna be trying to drink no caffeine. I ain't driving home, so didn't have to worry about that. And it was Coke products anyway, so I definitely wasn't gonna be drinking it. But let's that was my travel troubles. Now let's talk about some other troubles around the country. On Sunday, it was announced right as we were walking out of the hotel, my phone buzzed, and it was James Franklin out as Penn State head coach, which is insane. You knew the heat was on, but it was a whirlwind of 2 weeks, because 2 weeks ago they were playing Oregon in the whiteout game, and they were 1 yard actually, for that matter, of getting a stop and beating Oregon in overtime, and none of it is going to matter. And then the next 2 weeks he goes out and is the first coach in college football history to lose 2 games when he was favored, lose back-to-back games when he was favored by more than 20 points, losing to UCLA and Northwestern. Now, this firing, I bounce around. I'm not sure how I feel about it. I understand why Penn State did it, but they pay him $50 million to not coach. There's also no guarantee that the next coach they're going to hire is going to be better, because since 2022, there's been 4 coaches that have won more games than James Franklin. Kirby Smart, Kalen DeMore, Dan Lanning, and Ryan Day. All pretty damn good coaches, if you ask me. And I think there's more to the surface than this. I think the issues with Penn State was I think their player development under Franklin was not good. I think you look at like the 2 running backs that were brought in 22, and Katron Allen and Nick Singleton, where they feel like they have been the same player from when their freshman year to now. They haven't gotten better. I feel like the same could have been said about Drew Aller, on top of not playing in a really good system that really fitted his strengths, where it was a lot of RPOs and him running, utilizing his legs rather than showing off the arm that he has. And I think also with back to the situation though of firing him, I think could be a cautionary tale of be careful what you wish for, because there's no guarantee that the next coach is going to be better. I mean, it's going to be. I mean, you're paying James Franklin $50 million to not coach, which sounds like that Adidas footed the bill for it. You also have about a $35 million bank of assistant coaches, or maybe not $35 million. It's $10 million for assistant coaches, but you're going to have to pay the next head coach at least $35 million, and the next assistant coaches in that $10 to $15 million ballpark. They're renovating, doing like a $70 million update to Beaver Stadium. But for me, I almost feel like this could be a Nebraska situation, where when they fired Frank Solich back in, I believe it was 2001 or 2002. I don't have the exact year in front of me, but they fired him after a 9-3 season. Penn State historically has been that 9-10 win team every year, have a couple of losses, and that's what Penn State has been to me. And if you go back and look, that's historically what they have been. They've won a lot of games, lost a couple that have knocked them out of contention for a national title. And it's tough because the teams that Franklin has lost to were teams that everybody was losing to. I think they have that false sense of where the program is or what it could be. I don't think I've seen the comparisons of Georgia firing Mark Richt for Kirby Smart. The difference is that Georgia is a much more fertile recruiting ground than Penn State is, or Pennsylvania is where they recruit. I mean, there's guys that you don't have to leave the state, and you could have a full roster of just dudes like Georgia. You don't get that at Penn State. But we're going to see. I've seen the names. I think right now at this point, I think Indiana is a better job than Penn State right now. I think the way Cignetti has them rolling, especially because there's really no expectations still at Indiana. I don't think there ever will be to the extent that there are at Penn State, where it's national title or bust. Indiana's just happy that they have a good football team and they aren't counting down the days to watch a mediocre basketball team. But I've ranted enough on this here, Grant. What are your thoughts on this situation, on the Penn State firing?
I think the big thing, Dylan, you hit the nail on the head, is Penn State has this false sense of a program that they think they're someone where they're really not. They still think it's 1987 and Joe Paterno's coming out and they're playing for national championships. That's not the case. You've won one Big Ten championship in the last 25 years? In 2016. You haven't beaten Ohio State since 2014, right?
16.
16. You're right. Thank you. Yep, that same year they won the Big Ten championship, and that was off a blocked field goal. In the last 10 years, Michigan State has had more success than Penn State in terms of getting the Big Ten championship games, winning the Big Ten, and being relevant on a national stage at the end of the year. And then James Franklin was hired in 2014. Jim Harbaugh was hired in 2015. James congratulations, you had a 2-year run where you beat Michigan and you put Harbaugh in his place, but then after that they turned around and beat the brakes off you, and Michigan did get a national championship. Michigan has beaten Ohio State 4 years in a row. Michigan has proved that they were the big brother in the Big Ten East, while you're always the third-tier redheaded stepchild of the conference. It's a false sense of entitlement, and it's a head coach who couldn't get the most out of his players. I get real sick dealing with people in the media saying, you know how hard it is to win 9 games in college football or win 10 games? Well, when you have the talent that Penn State has, it's not that hard, because you're guaranteed to win your first 3 games of the year where you play nobody. And then in conference play, depending on how it goes, as long as you don't have Michigan and Ohio State every year, even if you do, you're still more talented than Michigan State. You should beat Iowa because you have better athletes on the defensive line. Same thing with Penn State. Minnesota's always going to play you hard, but Minnesota can never figure out the quarterback position and make those big plays when they need to against Penn State, except the 1 year when James Franklin lost on the road here at TCF. So it truly came down to, like you said, I think coaches, administration, and fans, and mainly boosters, saying that, hey, this program is something that we were when they really weren't, and they got fed up with Franklin. Also, Dylan, I do wonder if there had to have been some behind the scenes issues going on. Now, I'm not saying it was as toxic as Texas A&M was when Jimbo got fired midseason, because you did have some former players go out and support James Franklin and say what they did for him, they wouldn't be in the NFL and they wouldn't be the player, the man they were today. But yes, losing those 2 games when you're 20-point favorites is awful, but there had to have been some disconnect going on where they don't give them a chance to figure it out. And also, after your quarterback breaks his ankle, this says everything you need to know about Penn State in 2025 season. Drew Aller is laying on the ground, homecoming, with a broken ankle. His college career is over, and none of his teammates came around to support him. None of his teammates got him on the cart, pat him on the head, said, hey, we love you, we're sorry, this isn't going to happen. What is the disconnect with that team?
I think frankly he lost the locker room.
He lost the locker room.
And they let Oregon beat him 2 more times. And I think a lot of fans, I think they got sick of the same old cliched answers he'd always give in the press conference. Where you go back and you go look at what Ohio State did after they lost to Michigan last year. I mean, it sounds like there was a complete undressing of everything that went down, where they did a full, if we're going back to the college days, Grant, if you remember the SWOT analysis, they did a full SWOT analysis of what they need to do, how to get over the hump, how to regroup. And they had those tough, those honest, difficult conversations of we got to figure this out, or we're not going to be coaching here, or our season's going to be done. This is going to be a disappointment. We spent $20 million to come back. We didn't beat Michigan. That was our first goal. We can still obtain winning a national title, and they went out and did it.
And also, Michigan teams in this conference have done the same thing in the last 10 years. Look at Michigan after that dreadful 2020 season and the streak of losing to Ohio State. And people are like, did Harbaugh lose his lust? He's not the guy. He made wholesale changes to that program.
Harbaugh changed.
Harbaugh changed. Exactly. Jim changed himself. He went back to what he was in terms of running an offense and being the identity in the football team he wants. Go back 10 years ago when Iowa lost all 4 trophy games in the 2014 season, when a lot of people had them predicted preseason to go to the Big Ten championship game. They finished. I think that year they finished. What were they? 7-5.
It was the Daryl Castor sad flag waving game.
The Veterans Day sad game at TCF when they're down 51. They gave up 51 straight points to the Gophers that game. And then Kirk has the balls to use his timeouts at the end of the game when he's down by 42 points. Or it's 51-7, and he's going to take timeouts to try to score a touchdown. But after that game in the Iowa facility, Dylan, they have glass areas for all 4 trophies that they play for. Well, they took baseball bats and they broke every single glass for those 4 trophies because they said we're never going to not have these trophies ever again. They made wholesale changes. Ohio State did. Where are the changes Penn State's making? There were no changes. Franklin was doing the same thing, repeating the same press conference, this and that, and it didn't work out. And also, a team like that, how come you cannot figure out the wide receiver position?
I don't know. They went out and spent big money too this year.
Yeah, and also, like you said, it comes down to coaching and player development. Like Kirk Cignetti said, you can have all the nice 5- and 4-star recruits that you want. Congratulations. But if you're not getting these guys right, it's a waste of time and it's a waste of money. But like you said, the other side of this, where it is a dangerous game out there, is the way that we're paying these players the way we are. Boy, these coaches, they have a short leash. And these boosters who are spending a lot of money, if they feel like they're wasting it, they're going to get a guy out of there fast. But the grass is not always greener on the other side. I mean, look at Florida.
Nope.
They ran Dan Mullen out of
Florida.
town.
Look at Wisconsin.
Look at Wisconsin. I mean, you're telling me they wouldn't want to have Paul Chris back there right now?
Yeah.
And also at Wisconsin, look at Luke Fickell. Maybe he should never left Cincinnati. Why go to Wisconsin and be a small fish in a big pond when if he would have stayed at Cincinnati and kept that thing that he had going, he could have been a big fish in a smaller pond of the Big 12.
Yeah. And they're having a good year too this year.
In Cincinnati, I can't kind of believe it. I didn't really trust their coach. I thought he was kind of a fraud. I thought Louisville got better when he left.
Yeah.
And they're playing better and they're competitive.
I don't think I've ever Scott Satterfield leaving. I've never seen a fan base to take another job. I don't think I've ever seen a fan base happier that he left.
Yeah.
Than and a team in Cincinnati so disappointed that that's who they hired as their head coach when he got hired. Mm-hmm. And maybe it looks like it's somewhat working out here, but let's go here. We've talked enough about James Franklin. We're already a half hour in, but the Week 7 Team of the Week, Grant. There are some good candidates out there. Who I'll let you start it off. Who is your Week 7 Team of the Week?
So actually, I'm gonna specifically more or less call out this head coach. Because I thought he had a masterful plan and a masterful game, and that's Kalen DeBoer. Especially Kalen DeBoer in the second half and the fourth quarter in that game. He knew Alabama needed this win, and he delivered. Those 2 fourth down conversions, we talked about the Ty Simpson pass earlier tonight. He just had his team believing, and he had his team rolling, and also, for an Alabama team, playing 11 o'clock on a Saturday morning, I don't care what anyone says, that's hard on your psyche. When you're used to playing at 2:30 and 6:30 and 7, to have to wake up, have a super early breakfast and go out there and play a competitive game at 11 o'clock, that's hard. And it bites people in the ass more than what people think. And Alabama was ready to roll. And also, the key moment in that game, I believe Alabama were they up 7 at this point or 3? The 4th and 4 around midfield. Ethan and I, we were at the Gopher men's basketball scrimmage.
Yeah.
But we were watching the game on Ethan's phone because we thought the scrimmage started at 2. It started at 2:30. So we had about a half hour to kill. So we're watching the Alabama-Missouri game. And I look at Ethan and I go, watch for the fake punt here. And Alabama's defense was ready, and they shut Missouri down. And right after that, they went down the field and scored that touchdown. So, good for Kalen DeBoer and his coaching staff, where they knew the time and the moment, and they knew Missouri needed to jump. And there were players, they're ready, and they struck. And you would have thought after week 1, when they lost to Florida State and how that season ended last year, losing to Vanderbilt, losing to Oklahoma, and losing a tough one on the road to Tennessee, you would have thought he was going to be bought out for $70 million.
After week 1.
After week 1. But Kalen DeBoer and
they
his
wanted
staff,
him gone.
They wanted him gone. They were like, we're going to get Saban back off of game day. We'll pay Dan Lanning $110 million over 8 years to come coach this team. And they put their nose to the ground. They went to work. Was it Ryan Grubbs bringing him back as the offensive coordinator? Looks like it's one of the best hires of the offseason. This Alabama team is rolling, and Kalen DeBoer and his coaching staff had an awesome week 7. So I got to go with the Crimson Tide.
Crimson Tide, yep. That's a great choice. And I wasn't sure who you were going to go with because there's plenty of good candidates. I'm not mentally ready yet to discuss. Actually, we're on to Washington, so I don't want to discuss the disaster that happened at the Coliseum, the slaughtering that happened. It was like the Roman Empire, just Trojans destroying people. Because USC absolutely dominated Michigan, ran all over them. It was USC bullied the bully. And they've got a tough one next week against Notre Dame. Michigan's got a tough one against Washington. They got to bounce back. But I could also go with Indiana, who went into Autzen and got a win. Game really didn't feel as close as it is. Mendoza's a legit NFL player. Signetti continues to prove me wrong. So maybe, I don't know, maybe do I have to make the spin zone that he goes to Penn State and that's where he falls on his face? And I just keep saying that it's Indiana. They don't have high expectations. It's a little bit overblown. But when you go into Autzen and win a game like that, and you were clearly the better team, this is a national championship team contender, especially because last year, that was the question. They took advantage of a weak schedule, crapped in their helmet against the two best teams they played. I mean, they looked like the more prepared team. They look like the more physical team. Those 2 D tackles in the middle, good Lord, you could tell that they're eating good in the Midwest, and there's still a little bit too many vegan soy boys out on the West Coast. And now their schedule really opens up for them too, especially because Penn State's Penn State.
Penn State's Penn State, and also Oregon allowed before that game 1 sack on the year. And Indiana had 6 on Saturday?
Yeah.
Yeah, and they were flying around. You would have thought Indiana had the home field advantage in the way they were getting after the Oregon offensive line. You would have thought Indiana had the crowd noise behind their back, and they couldn't be stopped.
Yep. But that's not my team of the week.
Also, real quick on Indiana. The week after you put up 63 on Illinois, to go into Kinnick and fight and scratch and claw and get a win, sure.
Yes.
That's still impressive because that stadium is a house of horrors for a lot of teams, especially after a big win the week before.
And it also felt like a lot of that game, Iowa controlled that game too. Like I felt like Iowa should have been up by 2 scores. And Indiana just kept finding ways.
I don't know if it was you or Ethan, but they said, we've seen this game before in Kinnick multiple times.
Yep. But I'm going to stay in the SEC for my team of the week. And it's going to be Texas because they just lost to Florida. They were unranked, couldn't get a run game. Arch was horrible, being labeled a bust, all this. And the defense got slashed. John Mateer coming back. Oklahoma's rolling. And what happens? Texas, the defense showed up. I thought Arch played his best game. I think he's finally his the game is slowing down a little bit for him. I think people, I don't think it gets talked about enough. Arch is a redshirt sophomore where he really hasn't been caught up on live speed, especially against really good teams like the SEC. I think the game has finally slowed down for him because when you're not playing consistently for 2 years, I think there is a bit of an adjustment period. And I thought Sark did a great job. I thought of the play calling. I think the running game, it also helped Arch out a lot too, where it kept Oklahoma honest. And then he hit his throws when he had to. And also, I'm just happy for the guy because he had the expectations that were laid upon him. He didn't want. He is out there. It's not an effort thing. It's not anything like that. It's just he just hasn't played well. And I don't think he's a very humble kid. I don't think there's anybody in the building that works harder and wants to win and compete more than Arch Manning does. But he hasn't lived up to it. I think you see the way the team surrounded him and rallied around him in this game to go out and get a win, wear the golden hat. I think this might be a situation where Texas still only one SEC loss. Feels like they've turned a bit of a corner. They've still got some tough games. They've got to go to Georgia here in a couple of weeks. And I'm not looking at their schedule right now, but I think they've got a couple of other ones. And it's also setting up to where
Georgia, Arkansas, and then A&M the last game of the year.
A&M that's where I was getting to, where that could be another situation where whoever wins that game is going to be playing in Atlanta the next week for the SEC championship.
Oh, without question, because if I'm not mistaken, I looked at A&M's schedule. They still have South Carolina. I think that game might be this weekend. No, they play Arkansas this weekend. A&M's got a little bit of an easier trek going on right now. If they slip up and lose one game, which is what A&M does, but still they'll be 10-1 going into that last game, going into Austin for a trip, and if the Horns can get hot, and if that defense can continue to play the way that it has played all year, especially with the way they were flying around on Saturday, that's maybe a team I don't want to see get hot.
Yeah,
especially
with the that talent. The defense never fell off. It was always if Sark can get that offense going, and I think Sark just needs to not try and be so cute. I think they just kind of simplify the offense a little bit and do what they do best, where it's not as many decisions that Arch has to make, but just have simple game plans. Let guys think fast. Let them just go out there and fly around where they're comfortable.
And when your offensive line is having the struggles the way that they are, if you're Sark and you want to predicate your program on toughness and being the most physical team in the SEC and competing, just make it simple. Go back to the basics. Let your big offensive linemen go forward. Let him maul people. Use Arch's legs to his advantage. Set up those play action passes where then you can get those easy deep shots down the field. And don't listen to the media story that was Arch Manning into him being the best college quarterback since Cam Newton. That ESPN and Fox made up just to sell a storyline and get ratings.
What I would love to see, Grant?
Go back to the basics.
I don't know if you saw what Joe Mazzulla did. So every year once preseason camp wraps up, the media will scrimmage each other in a game. The Boston media will scrimmage each other in a game. Mm-hmm. But this year, Joe Mazzulla decided to change things up where the media would scrimmage the coaches. And do you know what the final score of that game was? Did you see that?
Wasn't it like 57-4?
Could you imagine if the college football coaches have to play a flag football game? Well, I don't know.
You know how many?
I think you could get a 7-on-7 game. I think there's enough graduate assistants. There's enough younger coaches on the roster where you could just dog walk the media.
You know how many pulled hamstrings there would be?
Well, it depends on who's playing, because some of these coaches that are still in good shape, because you get a couple, some of them position coaches, those younger ones, or, the one thing I do not want to see is an O-line coach strapping on the pads and getting one lick at somebody in a media member, because I don't. The O-line coaches are some of the most intense people that you will ever meet, and if they get one shot at a media guy that takes shots at one of his offensive linemen, have an ambulance on site.
I wouldn't even say have an ambulance. I'd say just have the funeral home vehicle there, because that person's going to die. That offensive line coach is going to lead with his head, and it's going to be ugly.
Yeah, for sure. But we'll keep moving here. Let's go up to the NFL for our week 6 team of the week. Grant, and who do you got for your week 6 team of the week?
I have to go with the Atlanta Falcons. Coming off the bye week, people are still kind of questioning them. Earlier this year they lost to the Falcons. They are the Falcons. They lost to the Panthers 30-0. You lose that tough game week 1 against the Bucs, and then week 2 when they steamrolled the Vikings, they got that running game going. But it's just like, how are you going to react on your first Monday night home game? Since 2018. The Bills were coming into town. At the time, the MVP favorite, the Super Bowl favorites, the big bad Wolves. How are your young players going to react? And the Atlanta Falcons came out and looked great. Funny things happen when you get the best offensive player in football the ball, and Bijan Robinson. And then you get that running game going, the play action passes, with Penn to London down the field. They were without Darnell Mooney, their deep threat, but they still looked great. The Falcons kind of showed everyone that, you know what, we're here to play. And yes, Tampa Bay is awesome right now. But don't forget about us. We can get hot. And Jeff Albrecht has totally flipped this Atlanta defense around. Because what's the one thing we've been saying for the last 12 years? If the Atlanta Falcons could get a consistent pass rush, they'd probably win a couple Super Bowls by now. And the Buffalo Bills have a very good offensive line. Well, they made them look uncomfortable Monday night. They got after Allen. That the Bills' offensive line, the Falcons were playing games with them. They couldn't figure that out. The Bills couldn't get James Cook going, and that was all because Jeff Albrecht had a great game plan, and his defense shut the Bills down. And that Falcons team getting to 3-2, that was an impressive win, and that looked like a playoff team. And team, if they get going and they get hot with this young nucleus that they have on offense, if they keep her going, you don't want to see them come December.
No. Well, and also, it just shows you, going back to the media. Remember when they got laughed at on draft night when they drafted a D end and then they traded up to get another one? Those guys are paying off pretty good right now.
I can't believe people laughed them off. I mean, that's Atlanta has a weakness. They have 6 first-rounders on offense. They have good players in the secondary. Is it Holcomb, their linebacker? He's a stud. They needed the horses up front. What's wrong with investing in 2 first-rounders who are 21 and 22 years old, who are long, twitchy athletes and can help rush the passer, when you're in a division with some decent quarterbacks that you're playing? And, Baker, of course. Bryce Young is getting better each week. The Saints are the Saints. But still, it's the National Football League. Anybody can beat anybody, and you need to get after the quarterbacks. So I never understood the hate with them taking those 2 pass rushers on draft night.
Well, it just goes to show you that sometimes the media just doesn't know what they're talking about, because it's not the flashy hot receiver, which they've drafted enough for, and it hasn't done them anything. So what do? They go out and address some of their issues, and now it's like, oh, why would you draft this? Yeah, maybe they somewhat times know what they're talking about. But
football is an easy game that we choose to make complex.
Yeah, we do. But my team of the week, I'm going to stay in the NFC South, and this is the game that I was able to watch on the plane. I'm going to go with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. big win over the Niners. Beat up Baker Mayfield, playing at an all-time level. Couldn't be happier for the guy. I mean, it felt like his career was over in Carolina. I wrote him off. Grant wrote him off. Ethan wrote him off. Everybody wrote him off. Thought he was going to. Colin Cowherd saying that he was going to. He should just go retire and try and. Yeah, offered him a job at the Volume to talk college football, which I still think he would be fantastic at. But he goes to the Bucs. Not a lot, replacing Tom Brady, the GOAT, and having some good years. And this is a year that I had him predicted to win I chose him to win the Offensive Player of the Year, and I didn't give him enough credit because right now he's going to win the MVP if he keeps this up.
Mm-hmm.
And you look at that game, that it was kind of teeter-tottering, and then the Niners had him 3rd and 20, about to get off on the field, and Baker just puts his balls in a wheelbarrow and just trucks over to make a scramble for a 3rd and 20, stretch out, get the first down. Then the next play goes over to Tez Johnson for a deep shot to make it a 2-score game. And Baker is also at this point doing it with it wasn't without his top 2 receivers. He finished that game with his 5th, 6th, and 7th receivers because Evans was out, Godwin was out, McMillan was out, Emeka Egbuka also get bent, by the way, because if he's healthy, I beat you this week. And
it's close.
and also Bijan Robinson. Is that why you chose the Falcons as your team of the week?
You know what? It was an underlying issue. I wasn't going to brag, but I was hoping you would get my subtle jab at you, and you sure did.
Yeah, you can't see it right now, but I am flipping you off underneath the table here.
That's fair.
Yep. But the Bucks were my team of the week. Also, I've always been a Baker guy. But I love him even more now.
And Dylan, I know it's 6 games, but with the amount of injuries they have at the wide receiver spot, we haven't seen the quarterback play at a high level like this with a bunch of jabronis since Tom Brady in 2006.
Yep.
This is some just serious all-time level play from Baker so far this year when you think about the players that he hasn't had. And Egbuka has gone nuclear in these first 6 games. Also, he's doing it as a rookie. He shouldn't be doing this.
No. Another good one, Grant, I was thinking of it was Peyton Manning. It was when Reggie Wayne was hurt, and then he missed the first month of the season, and Peyton was throwing to it was Pierre Garçon, Blair White, Austin Collie, Anthony Gonzalez, like that receiving crew.
Yes.
Look, that's who Baker's doing it with right now. That was when you brought up the Brady. I was like, I think I have a better one, and I can't remember what year it was, but they had a come from behind win on Monday night where they needed a 2-minute drill, and Peyton it was just the vintage Peyton where he was just slicing and dicing them up and down the field to get a win.
Was that 2008? Was that the game in Miami where they had the ball for 16 minutes?
Yep.
All game.
That was the one.
I think it was 2009. It was the Super Bowl year.
That could have been,
if I'm not mistaken.
I'll have to look it up later because it's gonna bug me that I can't remember it. But your disappointing team of the week, who do you got?
Oh, this is a tough one because I think I have 3 solid choices. But I'm not gonna talk about the other team in the Bills, Falcons game. I got to go with the Philadelphia Eagles.
Oh, good try. I can't believe I forgot about that.
Yeah.
And you know what? I'm calling an audible. That's my team, my disappointing team of the week. So we'll just discuss the Eagles sucking.
it was Thursday. We kind of forget about it. They lost the week before to the Broncos, where they had what was the fourth quarter lead? Was it 18-3, 18-6? And they pissed that game away. And then you listen to Jalen speak and the rest of the team, and you're like, I'm glad it's a short week. We haven't had this losing feeling in a while. And you go to MetLife and you just not show up. Like that team
get ran out of the building.
They got ran out of the building. They looked like they didn't want to be there. And it almost looks like there's a divide in that locker room, because even on some of these wins,
absolutely there is.
There's a huge divide in there is no connection going on. Like that Chiefs win. Well, Travis Kelce can't catch a pass. Bucker missed a field goal. Andy went for it early on fourth down. There's 3 turnovers that I think led to 17 Eagles points. The Rams game, when the Rams straight up just gave that thing away. And even the Bucs game, where Jalen doesn't complete a pass in the second half. And then to want to be a tough physical defense that they said they were last year when they won the Super Bowl, to let the Giants come in and just absolutely run you out of the building and look like you don't want to be there. Where's the energy? Where's the passion? What's going on in Philadelphia? And if they need to get this thing corrected, because if not, it will snowball. And then some of these receivers will get pissed, and that locker room will break and snap in half. And also, Dylan, you look at it, Milton Williams and Josh Sweat being gone, they missed those 2 guys.
Yep.
Bryce Huff is balling out in San Francisco right now. These young Georgia players need to stop being talked about that they're the greatest thing since sliced bread, because they haven't played at Georgia in 3 or 4 years. It's time to make your name as a Philadelphia Eagle, and they're not doing it. Nolan Smith can never stay healthy. Jordan Davis is out of shape. Jalen Carter's injured.
They need to figure haven't heard anything of him.
Well, because he's still coming back from the knee. But even then, Campbell looks like he's not going to give that job up. So Nakobe Dean's going to walk after this year. The secondary is a mess. This Eagles team, they're winning some games, but it's hard to watch. And there is a divide in this locker room, and it seems if they don't get this thing figured out in the next couple of weeks, it could implode.
Shoot. But that there is, because I mean, if you saw the quotes after the game where they asked AJ Brown about the meeting, the meeting that him, Saquon, and AJ had, that they met for 2 hours, which is also like, if you can't resolve something within 20 minutes, a problem within 20, 30 minutes, that's an issue. And then AJ Brown saying, I don't know what meeting you're talking about. So was there actually a meeting? I don't know. And you know what? I'm not sad to see the Eagles being having this way. They deserve it for a long time. A fan base that absolutely does not deserve a Super Bowl ever, and now they have 2. But the my disappointing team of the week is, and I didn't get to watch a lot of football on Sunday, so it was really hard to pick. But I'm going to go with the Jacksonville Jaguars, just because they come off this big emotional win. They've got Seattle that's coming off this big emotional loss. They're going to be let down. They're traveling all the way across the country to play an early game, historically a spot where the Seahawks have not been good. And it's just that up and down roller coaster that is the Jacksonville Jaguars. I was about as high as anybody was when Trevor Lawrence was drafted. I thought he was going to be the next big thing. I still contend that he's not going to be a good quarterback. I'm back to, until he cuts his hair, I'm not buying Trevor Lawrence stock, because there's way too many times in a game or in a series where he makes, wow, that is a Hall of Fame level play. And then the next play, he resorts, and then a few plays later down on the drive, he makes a Ryan Leaf for I'm trying to think of a really, really bad quarterback that's like a Ben DiNucci
Jamarcus,
type play.
Jamarcus Russell type play.
Yes. That, like, what is he doing? What are they doing?
Mhm.
The receivers still have drops. Too many of them. The O-line is way too inconsistent. They gave up 7 sacks to the Seahawks. And against a defensive line that isn't anything to write home about, I would say. And when you watch that Jaguars offensive line, you could tell they're not in sync. I mean, you can tell by a good offensive line by the way they're communicating pre-snap, where they're pointing guys out, they're pointing out blitzers, they're saying he's going, you got him, shift the protections. You don't see that at all when you watch Jacksonville.
No, they're waiting for their quarterback to tell them what to do, which isn't good because Lawrence is clearly overthinking everything, and he's processing too much, and it's slowing the team down. And when you have to think when you're playing football and you're not reacting, that's when bad things happen.
Yep. That Jags are going to jag. Let's go up to week 7 in the NFL, Grant. What game do you have your eye on this week? Or are you actually going to be having to work this weekend?
So I have to work this. I do have to work this weekend.
Oh, what the hell?
But the noon games aren't the greatest. But there's a game Sunday at 3:05 that has my attention, and it's Colts Chargers.
That was on my list.
Mm-hmm. Because the Colts, they're the upstart, they're the fast, they're the sexy team on the year, and they're at 5-1. They've beaten the Broncos at home, and they lost a close one to the Rams at home, where if A.D. Mitchell doesn't let go of the ball, they win that game, and they're 6-0. But this is the first real test the Colts are going to have this year, where it's on the road. And I'm not saying SoFi is a huge home field advantage for the Chargers, but also I don't know how well Colts fans are going to travel. So the Chargers might have somewhat of an actual home field advantage in this game. And I'm curious to see how Daniel Jones' offense does against this Jesse Minter defense. This Chargers defense, they're still flying around. They're getting in opponents' faces. They're getting after the quarterback. How does Daniel Jones react to this? Because this might be the game where he finally does have a turnover or two, where he goes back to the old Danny Dimes. You can guarantee Jesse Minter is not going to let Jonathan Taylor beat you. So then how's he going? How's that chess match going to go? And then also, one of the best coaching hires this offseason no one's talking about, Lou Amarillo being brought in to be the defensive coordinator for the Indianapolis Colts. I bet you Zach Taylor and the Cincinnati Bengals wish they still had Lou Amarillo right now.
Oh, yeah.
Because you just don't let a coach like that go unless you just have such arrogance from your general manager that, oh, nope, I'm bringing in the good players. It's the coach's fault. The chess match between Amarillo and Harbaugh and Greg Roman is going to be a fun one to see. And if the Colts can come away with this game with a win, they look like a legit team at 6-1. Where you know what? Hey, don't mess with these guys.
They're
but then also the Chargers, frisky and fun.
They're in that.
I'll say.
Yeah, they're somewhere between frisky and fun, and they're also in that. I would say they're more so tweening, and I think this is a game that they might be getting a promotion where right now they're a playoff team. If they go into SoFi and get a win, I think on Sunday, I think you have to elevate them to Super Bowl contender.
Super Bowl contender. I agree. And then also, can the Chargers kind of keep this momentum going throughout the year and get another win over a good team early in the year? Here in Week 7, if the Chargers can get this win, that's wins over the Chiefs, Colts, and Broncos already. That's a hell of a foundation for the year. And you just, like you said, just kind of keep this motivation going. And while you're banged up, you're missing your top 2 running backs. Of course, Rashawn Slater's out for the whole season. Other key members on the offensive line are hurt. Where Herbert's running for his life, but still completing passes just on the money. Having a great year. So yeah, this AFC matchup between the Colts and Chargers, take us back to 2007, is my NFL game of the week.
Yep. My NFL game of the week is going to be a revenge game because it sounds like JJ McCarthy is still not going to be able to go on Sunday. But I got Eagles Vikings. This is a Carson Wentz revenge game. I think I want to see more of the final drive versus the Browns. As far as play calling goes, we talked about it on this show. I think they need to be doing these 3-step drops, especially with the O-line. They have not gelled yet. They need to find a way to get more 3-step drops, getting the ball out, getting the ball in rhythm where Carson's he's taking that 3-step drop and the ball's coming out. And, getting, not letting that pass rush of the Eagles or not letting any defense get to him. I think that's also going to open up the run game more consistently because that was my biggest gripe with the play calling and why the Vikings have felt like they were getting off to this slow start where, they're giving them 5-7-step drops and the offense can't protect them. It looked like it was like the Joe Burrow offense, his rookie year where they kept calling these long developing plays and they weren't able to get open or the protection was breaking down. They were running for their lives. So I think that's the big thing is they've had the week off to prepare. And, defensively for the Vikings is they got to avoid those 3rd and short situations, win on those early downs, not get it to where it's a tush-push scenario, and, get home with 4 where you're forcing Hurts into a drop-back pass game because there's still questions on it. And the way the Eagles have played, we're going to find out if Sirianni was able to rally the locker room or if there's going to be another letdown for the Giants or the Eagles where they're going to be dropping down to 3-3.
Mm-hmm.
So, Grant, I didn't watch a lot. I have a Beth Mullins game of the week, but I'm also calling an audible here. What we're going to do is we are going to go up to the NFL for our Beth Mullins game of the week because we have to, because the Browns play the Dolphins this week. And 1-5 versus 1-5. The battle of short left-handed quarterbacks.
Short with out of Canada with very weak arms.
Mm-hmm. So that's our Beth Mullins game of the week. Let's go back to the callers. Let's talk about some of the good games that are going on this week. We got Notre Dame, USC. Hopefully this isn't the last time they play. We got some other good ones here. What is your Week 8 game of the week in college football?
Notre Dame, USC was on the list, but I'm not going to go with that one. I got to go Alabama, Tennessee. Because now we're getting into the meat and potatoes of the schedule for each team, here in mid-October. And with both of these teams already having a loss on the year, you get that second loss and your playoff hopes, they're not over, but you got to be good the rest of the year. And like I said, this is Alabama trying to revenge last year's loss against Tennessee. It's in Bryant-Denny. It's going to be at 6:30. You really get the feel, Dylan, the loser of this game doesn't have a chance to get to Atlanta and play in an SEC championship game. So, this is truly our, must-have games here throughout the rest of the year. And also, this is low-key a good rivalry that nobody wants to talk about in the national media. Everybody wants to talk about Alabama, Auburn, Georgia Tech, even Tennessee, Georgia. But there is a serious amount of disdain between both of these schools and these players on this roster. And it should be interesting because last year on game day, Nick Saban said he had a harder time to get his players up to play Auburn than when they did against Tennessee. So just the amount and minute attention to details that you're going to have this week, the holding penalties on 1st and 10 that slow a drive up, the mental miscues, everything like that is going to be just put underneath a microscope this week. So I gotta go Alabama, Tennessee, one of the rare, more underrated rivalries in college football, and almost an SEC championship game elimination game, you could argue, this weekend.
Yep. And Tennessee, I mean, Heupel's done a great job. They've gotten a lot of big wins in Neyland, but we have yet to see them go on the road and pull out a win or really even be competitive for that matter, where Alabama's been really good at home. They, especially, you go back to a couple of years ago against, where they had the bigger games at home and they found ways to pull it out. It's going to be an uphill battle, but I think this is a game that I think if you want to see, or Tennessee talks about taking that next step, they completely screwed the game up against Georgia. What did they learn from that? We'll see. I think the way Alabama's playing right now, especially because they're at home, I think this could be I like Alabama in this game, but I could be wrong. I probably will. But I had 2 games down, Grant, this week. And one of them is because this hasn't happened in 77 years. This is the first time in 77 years that Vanderbilt is favored over LSU.
No shit.
Yeah. Yep. But I don't think I'm going to go with that game. I'm going down to Georgia. This has been a very Georgia-heavy show this week with the Falcons, so. And I'm still flipping you off underneath the table here.
Yeah, well, right there, pal.
Okay, Eli. But I got Ole Miss, Georgia. Speaking of Eli, Ole Miss versus Georgia.
There you go.
Ole Miss, big win last year. Last week, little bit of a look. I think they were looking ahead a little bit. I think they looked at Washington State and thought, no way. Jimmy Rogers, credit to him, had the guys ready. Gave Ole Miss everything they could handle. I think they're going to have all hands on deck. Georgia has their full attention this week. There's some keys for me that I'm going to be looking for right now. Ole Miss has had trouble taking care of the football. Trinidad Trambulis has got to take care of the football. That LSU game was close because of their inability to take care of the football. And then I think offensively, they got to find some explosive plays. Ole Miss, they lead the nation in explosive plays. Georgia is at the bottom of the SEC. I think they're ranked 11th in pass defense this year, which is something I never thought I would hear about a Kirby Smart coach defense, that they that they are at the bottom of the SEC. And then on Georgia's side of the ball, they got to get out to a fast start. In some of these bigger games, you see them, they come out a little bit lethargic. They wait for the other team to hit them in the mouth, and then they wake up. You look back at when they played Alabama a couple of weeks ago. You look back at last week where they played Auburn, where it felt like for most of the first half they were just sleepwalking through that first half until Jackson Arnold may or may not have scored. And they punch it out and they get a fumble and they go down and score right before half, and that kind of flipped the game on its head. And I think the big thing too is Georgia, they have to, on first and second down, they have to get ahead of the sticks. Gunnar Stockton is a lot better than I thought he would be, but he is not good. But he's at his best when he's a threat to run, and it's not going to be a drop back pass game where that's where you see him struggle, where he gets happy feet. That first read isn't there, and he's trying to look, and he's looking to scramble. There's nowhere to go, and Georgia's punting again. So I would like to see them utilize his legs, especially on those early downs, to get ahead of the sticks, where you have a full selection of the playbook here. So that's my game of the week. There's some other good ones. We got the Holy War going on in Utah.
Yeah, that was the one I was going to talk about. And Utah, BYU still undefeated. Utah they got shellacked by Texas Tech. So if Utah wants to prove that, hey, we're still a team who can win the Big 12, this is the week to do it. Because if you lose 2 conference games to the 2 teams at the top, maybe you're more frauds this year.
Yep. And you're going to a game on Friday night, Nebraska, Minnesota. What are you keeping your eyes on for that game?
So that one, I'd be intrigued with the Minnesota offensive line, because they have not been able to get a good push and have the running game going this year. And also, this Nebraska offense, Dylan, I think is actually pretty good. Gophers defense is not what it was in years past. Purdue rushed for over 200 yards against them on Saturday night, and they had that Gophers defensive line had 21 pressures, but they let that Purdue quarterback get out of the pocket all night. And if they don't get to Raiola, with how bad this Gophers defense is, they're going to put up 35 points. And Minnesota is just not built to score more than 36 points with this offense this year. So Minnesota has to establish a running game, and they have to get after Raiola, because if not, he's gonna tear them apart. Because this Minnesota defense is not good.
And which is crazy, because that's kind of been the calling card is their defense throughout the years, and it had. I mean, Coy Parrish, it doesn't feel like he's having the year that a lot of people thought he would be having.
If you ask me, they're trying to ask him to do too much. Personally, I think he's doing too much. Where, again, he's thinking, he's not reacting to play. Yes, you have a special skill, and he is a talented player. But when you're trying to play 6 different positions on defense, it's just too much to handle. And he's just not ready for it at 19 years old.
No, which is unfortunate, because I had him as a sleeper Heisman candidate, and he hasn't lived up to it. But also, on my college football 26 dynasty, he entered the portal. So as far as I'm concerned, he's kind of getting what he deserves.
Fair enough.
Some other good games that are going on Friday is Louisville, Miami. That's a sneaky one. Grant, will you be rushing home to watch Cal take on North Carolina at 8:30 on ESPN?
How'd you know?
I bet it was like pulling teeth to get you to go to this Gopher Nebraska game, knowing that game was going to be on.
What? I mean, I didn't. The reason I'm only going to this Gopher Nebraska game is because I didn't know UNC was playing California Friday night. Had I known that, I wouldn't have agreed to go to this game.
Yeah, that checks out. But another sneaky good one is Georgia Tech versus Duke. Duke is actually a 1.5 favorite. Arizona Houston's a sneaky one. Baylor TCU. Let's see here. You know what? Good for David Braun. Got Northwestern at 4-2, taking on Purdue. SMU Clemson looks to stay on the winning track. 1:30 on FS1. UNLV versus Boise State in a potential playoff matchup. Let's see here. What other ones do we got? Texas Tech, Arizona State. I think prior to Arizona State getting absolutely destroyed by Utah, that one looked to be a promising game. Somehow the Mississippi State-Florida game is very intriguing, because that could be a who knows what's going to happen. Iowa Penn State. Who is Penn State's interim head coach? I didn't even see that.
I'm not even sure yet.
Okay, me either. UCLA, Maryland, another sneaky good one. Missouri, Auburn. Auburn has given a lot of teams a lot they can handle, and it feels like they might be close to breaking through, but that offense is still just horrible. Like, there's got to be a change somewhere there, whether it's Hugh Freeze or offensive coordinator, because that's Hugh Freeze's calling card is offense, and they have not been good this year. Let's see here. Yeah, that pretty much sums up the rest of the games that would be worth watching. So, let's go on to curveball of the week here, and I have it this week. So, Grant, I got a good one for you. The four fingers on your left hand can shoot liquid. What are the four liquids they're shooting out?
That's an interesting one.
I heard it on Michigan's their basketball podcast. Brian Bush was at their media day. He was interviewing players, and that was his final question of what he would ask.
So my left hand can shoot four liquids?
Yep.
Well, I think one's going to be water. And two, how about some sort of beer?
Okay.
I'll have that flying out of there. Another liquid. I mean, I am a Fairlife chocolate milk whore, so we're gonna have some Fairlife coming out of one of those. And then my fourth one, what would that be? You know, we're dessert people. We love talking about food. Let me have some milk so I can have milk with my cookies all the time.
You already did milk.
Oh, that's right.
Or are you going white and chocolate?
I'm going white and chocolate.
Wow. Good for Grant not being racist.
Yep, I'm going white and chocolate.
All right. Well, so my first one, obvious, water. Second one is, I would say, is going to be Diet Dew.
Fair.
Third one is, this might be, I got to go with a chocolate shake. I think that counts as a liquid.
Yep.
Chocolate shake. And my fourth one is going to be oil, because when you squirt it out, that means you're rich. You have endless money. I would put Larry Ellison to shame, and I would be supporting. Michigan would never lose a game because I would just donate money to the NI and NDSU. I may just foot the bill for them to go independent.
That's a lot of money.
Yep. But I have oil squirting out of my pinky.
You can do whatever you want.
Yeah, I can do whatever I want. That's right. So that wraps up this week's episode of the Three Guys Talking Ball podcast. We're going to be back next week doing the same thing we did last week. I believe Ethan will be back. And then the next week after that, it will be his wedding. And
wedding.
I forgot. Yes. And I got about a little bit to talk about. I forgot to mention NDSU plays Indiana State. I do have that in there. So I was going to talk a little bit about that. Big win over Southern Illinois. They won the middle eight again. Some big turnovers to take advantage at the end of the first half, and in the second to start the second half, go down and score. Another vintage Bison, feel it out in the first half, dominate in the second half. Play Indiana State this week. Indiana State, nothing special, not very good. But can't be slacking. Got to go out, take care of business, because they got an even bigger one next week. They got South Dakota State next week. So get in, get out, make sure everybody is healthy, and get ready for a war down in Brookings on that's going to be a night game here next Saturday. On the
nice.
that would be November? No, not November. August,
Or
October
25th.
25th. Correct. So that wraps it up. That concludes here. This one, make sure you are following us on all of our social medias, 3GTB Podcast. Like, rate, subscribe, review, and we will thank you guys to everybody who has tuned in, and we will talk to you next